America. America is a pretty amazing place. But more amazing than what America looks like is what this country stands for and how it came to be. This is a story about the United States of America and the most special thing about it, a kind of government called democracy. In a democracy, the people are the government. That means you and him and her and everyone.
Democracy is a word that means people caring about their country and running it.
Why are these people so excited? Well, they are getting ready to vote. And voting is how decisions are made in a democracy. The word democracy comes from two words that mean people and to rule. You know what people means. You're a person, I'm a person, we're all people. To rule means the government, which makes the laws and rules that help us all live together. In a democracy, the people rule by telling the government what they think and feel.
Democracy is people who have rights, people who have rights to vote, to elect their leaders.
We vote to elect our leaders. The president and vice president, our senators and representatives in Washington, our mayors and town council members. People who will represent us. The idea is that each of us votes for someone who will lead all of us.
To me, that's really important that we have the right to exercise our power in choosing our government. A lot of other countries can't choose their government.
Voting is the best way to tell the government how you think and feel. Your vote is your opinion, and you want it heard.
I think the most important thing about democracy is it gives you a chance to say what you want because your opinion counts too.
When the people who live in a democracy vote, they are participating in their government. For a democracy to really work, everyone needs to participate. That means all of us. Today, there are many democratic countries in the world. But more than 200 years ago, when the United States of America was founded, most countries were governed by kings and queens. Nobody elected them. They got to be leaders just by being born into the right family, which is a pretty neat trick. In 1776, America was still part of England and was ruled by its king. But there were people in the American colonies who were brave enough to want to try a new kind of government, democracy. No king, no queen. The people electing their own leaders, the leaders being responsible to the people who elected them. After they decided to form a new country, one of the first things the Americans needed was a flag, a symbol that would stand for the new country's ideals and the people who would be part of this great new experiment in democracy.
I think a flag is a symbol of a country or something like a city, and it might have a picture of a bird on it.
It took a while to agree on which flag would best represent the United States of America and who we were as Americans. Here's an early flag that shows a rattlesnake. Some people thought that a rattlesnake would be a great mascot because a rattlesnake fights only to defend itself. and because a rattlesnake never closes its eyes, which is a good idea for a young country which had to fight to be free. The words under this picture read, "Don't tread on me," which means, don't step on me, I mean it. That seems like pretty good advice. The leaders of the new country met in Philadelphia in June of 1777 and decided on a different design. The one they chose didn't have animals or plants, but it did have stars and stripes. There were 13 colonies, or states, at that time. The 13 colonies would be represented by stripes of red and white. Like the flag, the colors are symbols of something else. Red is a color that stands for courage, so red means Americans have courage. The color white is a symbol of liberty, or freedom. White also means innocence and purity. The young country was like a new baby. The third color was blue, which stands for loyalty, like loyalty to a team. It was important in those days of this infant country for the people who lived here to love their country and to be loyal to it even during hard times. The blue also stands for justice. It means that all people should be treated fairly and equally. The new flag had stripes, but it also had stars. 13 stars for the 13 colonies. The stars lay on a background of blue, like the night sky. The 13 stars would form a new constellation. Those leaders who met more than 200 years ago imagined America as a land of courageous people, a land of liberty. The new country would be like a light on a hill, a shining example of freedom for other people all over the world.
Sometimes when I'm in a bad mood, the flag cheers me up. Sometimes.
Do you know another symbol of our country? It's not this, or this, or this, although it almost was. The bald eagle is the symbol of our country, which means it stands for the people who live here and what they believe in. More than 200 years ago, a group of leaders chose the eagle as our symbol. Ever since then, the eagle has been part of our history. The eagle is on the Great Seal of the United States. You see the eagle everywhere. Why would we choose an animal for our symbol? And why the eagle? Well, some people wanted the turkey to be the symbol. But, well, they were outvoted. We chose the bald eagle for a lot of reasons. First of all, the bald eagle is found only in North America, so it could truly be called an American bird. Look at the bald eagle, soaring in the sky, and you can probably think of other reasons why it might be a good symbol. It seems like a noble bird, proud and free. A young country like America wanted to stand for these kind of qualities. Look at the bald eagle on the seal. Its wings are spread and it holds an olive branch in one claw. The olive branch stands for peace. In the other claw, it's holding a cluster of 13 arrows for the 13 original American colonies. The arrows and the olive branch are meant to show that the country intends to be peaceful, but will fight to defend its ideals. By the way, bald eagles aren't bald. A long time ago, the word bald used to mean white, and the American bald eagle has white feathers on its head. Americans care so much about the bald eagle because it's become a living, breathing, flying symbol of liberty. 200 years ago in Philadelphia, the leaders of the new country wanted to announce the ideals of their country to the world. They put down their hopes for the new democratic nation in a Declaration of Independence. It was written by the youngest man at the meeting, Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. He was chosen because he was the best writer. Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal. Not just men, of course, all people. Jefferson was saying that all Americans deserve to be treated equally by the government. In this Declaration of Independence, Jefferson also wrote that all people have certain rights. Rights means things that we are entitled to, just because we live here. Jefferson said those rights were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have these rights and others so long as we don't hurt anyone else. Not too many years after the new country had declared its independence, the American flag inspired another symbol of America, the Star-Spangled Banner.
I don't know all the words that good.
It's not too difficult, I just don't know all the words.
I like to sing it, but sometimes it's hard to sing it when it has the high notes.
Oh, say can you see?
By the dawn's early light, but so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleamings. Oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner? I don't remember the rest.
Yay! 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 Fire! Load!
It was the fall of 1814.
Left wheel! Up! Fire!
And the country was at war again with England. British troops had already burned Washington, D.C., and they were moving north to the next large American city, Baltimore. America was in danger of losing the war. If it did, the country would break apart. Fort McHenry, commanded by Major George Armistead, guarded the entrance to Baltimore Harbor. If the invading troops could get past Fort McHenry, they would be able to capture the city. Armistead was proud of the American flag and had called for an extra-large flag to fly over his fort. A well-known flag maker named Mary Pickersgill sewed a flag 30 feet by 42 feet long, as big as a giant movie screen. Working with her daughter Mary, the two sewed 15 red and white stripes and 15 stars, because there were 15 states then. When the flag was finished, she presented Major Armistead with a bill for $574.44. The flag was so large, they had to construct a special wooden brace to support the flagpole so it wouldn't blow over in the wind. British ships had finally reached Baltimore Harbor. A man named Francis Scott Key came aboard to try to free American prisoners. But while he was on board, the battle order was given, and cannons aboard the British ships began to fire on Fort McHenry. Major Armistead ordered his troops to fire back. For a full day, the battle raged. Cannonballs flew over Baltimore Harbor. Smoke filled the air. finally stopped, the clouds of gunpowder smoke began to lift. In the distance, Francis Scott Key could see the huge red, white, and blue flag Mary Pickersgill had sewn, flying over the fort. It was tattered and worn, but it was still flying. The flag was a sign. The Americans had not given up. Even with fewer men and smaller weapons, Major Armistead's Fort McHenry troops had triumphed. Francis Scott Key was taken off the British ship and began to write a poem about what he had just seen and heard and felt. When he saw the flag still flying by the dawn's early light, it made him feel that if the troops and the fort could survive this terrible battle, the young country could survive too. And he was right. Not long after the Battle of Fort McHenry, the War of 1812 was over and the English soldiers went home.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the
He proudly showed his poem to a friend who took it to a print shop and then handed it out to people throughout Baltimore. The poem became even more popular when people began to sing it to a favorite song of the day. At first, Francis Scott Key's poem was called The Battle of Fort McHenry. Soon, people began to call it the Star-Spangled Banner because it honored the flag. More than 100 years later, President Herbert Hoover made the Star-Spangled Banner the national anthem. That meant it became the official song of the United States. People began singing the Star-Spangled Banner at ball games during times of war, and it's a tradition that's continued. Our national anthem is a special song that brings us together around the common theme of freedom.
I think that they mean, like, can you see the flag in the early light of morning when, like, at the crack of dawn?
What so proudly we hailed
at the twilight's last gleaming.
They had won the war and there's no more, like, missiles exploding or anything.
They hail the flag early in the morning, and but they can barely see it because it's only twilight out.
Whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight.
I also think that, like, each color of the flag, like red, white, and blue, like, means something. Like, maybe red would mean freedom and white would mean justice, and that would, like, cheer them on to win the fight.
For the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming.
I think it means, like, when people watch the war, they see that almost a lot of people died because they've been shot. And it was really sad because some of those people had family members who had died.
and the rockets hurried down, the bombs bursting in air.
Came through the night that our flag was still there.
Gave proof through the night and the flag was still there. It means kind of like after the war, after what they were fighting for and stuff, the flag was still there after it all.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
Oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave. I think that it means that after they went through that whole war, that the flag was still there and it was still waving, as it was in the beginning of the war.
He wonders, is our country defeated yet, or are we still going on? Are we still surviving?
For the land of the free and home of the brave, I think that means that the soldiers, they lived here and it was their land and they were free and they were brave for fighting in the war.
It means like we've already won and we now are free from we're now are free, and the brave part is like we're honoring all the people who fought in the war because they were brave.
All across our country, we see buildings and monuments that help remind us of our ideals. Those ideals are what, for more than 200 years, Americans have agreed that America is about. Now, you can't hold an ideal in your hand, or look at it, or walk around it. But some of the most important American ideals are symbolized by monuments that we can visit. A monument can be a building, or a statue, or a sculpture. A monument is something that helps us remember. When we look at it, and touch it, and walk around it, there's something there that stands for something. There is a monument that stands for liberty. It rests on its own island in the middle of the harbor around New York City. It's called the Statue of Liberty. Some people call the statue Lady Liberty. Millions of people every year take a boat to visit the Statue of Liberty. It's a huge statue. It towers 240 feet above the waters of New York Harbor. The statue is made of 500,000 pounds of copper and wood and was built more than 100 years ago in Paris. The statue was given by people in France to America to celebrate the 100th anniversary of American independence. The sculptor saw the statue shining the light of liberty from America to the old world. Lit up at night and with her torch always shining, the statue has become a symbol for millions of immigrants. People who had sailed away from their homes and their past could look up at the Statue of Liberty and imagine a new life with new hope and new ideals, like liberty and justice for all. The words of a poem are inscribed on the base of the statue. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
To me, I lift my lamp.
Today, most immigrants no longer arrive by ship, and they come to our shores from all over the world, children as well as their parents. And the Statue of Liberty continues to mean to people all over the world that this is a land of immigrants, and that the light of liberty shines brightly in America as an example to the rest of the world.
It had 7 points on its hat to represent 7 continents and the seas, and it has broken chains at its feet to represent freedom.
The Statue of Liberty represents freedom for most people today. So in search of a better life, better way of living, their dreams.
At her birthday, they set off fireworks and have like lots of parties.
And it's where past immigrants and everyone came into this country. This was the first point that they seen, and it stands for the liberty of America, the reason why a lot of them were coming, and the justice that they hope to find here.
Equality is also one of the ideals Americans prize. Remember, all men are created equal, part of Thomas Jefferson's original dream for this country? Perhaps no other single place in this country symbolizes how Americans have struggled for equality as much as the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This marble structure is filled with the hopes of people everywhere to be treated equally. This building serves as a reminder of one man, our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, and everything he did to preserve the great ideal of equality. We remember Lincoln as the president who fought to keep the country together, who freed black men and women from slavery, and who was assassinated. The momentous issue that defined his presidency was slavery. This building is 188 feet long by 188 feet wide and 80 feet high. It seems just like a building, cold white stone, but it's not. There's so much of our past that's always here, inside these stones and columns. More than 130 years ago, our country was at war with itself, the North against the South. As president, Lincoln had promised to uphold the laws of the country and to keep the country together. During his presidency, Lincoln gave a speech called the Emancipation Proclamation, in which he declared that all people were created equal, and therefore that all people were free, and that included people brought to this country as slaves. 100 years later, in 1963, the Lincoln Memorial was the scene of another important moment in the struggle for equality. The famous March on Washington for Civil Rights. 200,000 people marched for equal rights for all Americans and an end to discrimination against black Americans. Another great leader in the cause of equality spoke that day, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
My poor little children one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
The Lincoln Memorial is such an important place because it reflects the ideal of equal rights for all people.
I think it's a land where justice for all will come, because even though it may take years, but it can happen.
Lots of people today, especially kids, have really good ideas for monuments they would build to other important ideals we share.
This is a symbol of a bird taking off into the woods to be free, and it's in the U.S. where you can really be free, so that's why I put the U.S. underneath the hand.
I made this because I want people to have friends every day and don't have to worry about things.
Democracy is like having freedom to vote instead of just like one person says something and then that's what goes.
In our democracy, we express our freedom by voting. Election day is an opportunity for everyone to come out and let the government know how they think and feel. Although we don't all vote the same way, the act of voting is something we all share. Today, voting is a right that belongs to all people in our democracy, but it hasn't always been so. Some people have had to fight, to march and carry signs and petition for that right. And they did, because voting is so important. Voting means that you matter. Your opinion counts as a member of our country. Voting is exciting. Every year, somewhere, there is some kind of election. electing a new class president, voting for money to build a new school, or electing a new mayor. And everyone, everywhere, can participate. You have to be 18 to vote in these elections, to pull the voting levers, press the buttons, or punch the tickets. But even if we're not 18 just yet, we still want our voices to be heard. We can write letters or sign petitions to the mayor or to Congress about things we care about.
I think that we need like a little more nature, like trees and forests. Air pollution, that's what we take a breath of every day. If like factories are making smoke, that's what we're going to take a breath of.
Well, about the waters, people are just throwing in toxic waste and stuff, and it's sort of it is polluting it.
If the red wolf would be extinct, I would be sad. I'd write to Congress and ask them to pass a law for no killing animals or cutting down trees.
If a new law is passed that children don't think is right, like the killing of whales, then maybe a lot of children will send in letters to the government saying, we don't think this law is right because it's not really fair.
Kids are the next generation, so they should help make laws by writing notes to their senator or their mayor.
You can help to interest other voters in someone or something you believe in.
Good afternoon.
You can even make sure people who listen to you, like your parents, get to the voting booth.
Well, it's very important to vote because you need to see who you feel will do the best for your city. And if when you vote for them, you really get a chance to try to make life better for yourself and all the other people.
I think it would be kind of neat to vote because, I mean, you'd be having part of your say into what happens.
Because if people who just didn't feel like going down to the voting polls and voting, then like bad people or criminals, they could get whoever they wanted in office.
When we vote, it makes me feel real happy.
You could also tell your parents, and your parents could go and vote or argue in town council, or you could go to the town council.
Well, we had a mock election at school last year, so I voted in the presidential election we had here at the school.
Student government, we vote for the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer.
And we've gotten to vote on, like, in our class, we got to vote on what to do, like, if we wanted to go to computer lab or science lab or something like that, you know?
I think voting is fun because you can have your own opinion and stuff, and you have choice, and you know that you had a choice, like, even if it didn't come out the way you wanted it to.
In a democracy, the people are the government. In fact, Abraham Lincoln said that our democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
Democracy is the role of government of, for, and by the people.
In a democracy, people have the power, and in America, that means you. America is a pretty amazing place. A place where everyone's opinion counts. Where we try to treat everyone fairly and equally. Of brave and courageous people.